Hello and welcome.
I'm Victoria.
I'm Serena, and together we're Femme Noir.
This show is all about women, specifically in film.
We are going to review and analyze movies that are written by, directed by, or starring women.
And we can't wait for you to join us.
Tune in and listen wherever you listen to podcasts, or join us on YouTube. And today we were talking about the movie Little Woods.
The movie Little Woods came out in 2018, is the directorial debut of Nia DaCosta, who wrote it as well. The film stars Tessa Thompson as Ollie, who is a character illicitly helping the struggling residents of her North Dakota oil boomtown access Canadian healthcare and medication. When the authorities catch on, she plans to abandon her crusade, only to be dragged in even deeper after a desperate plea for help from her sister. Thank you to Letterboxd for that synopsis. This film I watched a couple years ago, not when it came out, but it was on Hulu, and I watched it, and I knew nothing about it, nothing about the director. I know Tessa Thompson from a couple other movies, but I was obsessed when I first watched it. I could not take my eyes away from the screen. Literally so fucking good. I still am obsessed. It's still so amazing.
Yeah.
And then I was the one that told Serena to watch it, but I wanted to know what you thought.
I really liked it. I also had no idea what it was supposed to be about. Victoria told me to watch it, and I was like, all right, I'm down. All I knew is that it had Tessa Thompson in it, and that it had a Black female director, and I was like, cool, I'm down. Like, didn't even bother to look at what it was about, like, any of that. Found it on Hulu and, like, just sat down and watched it. But I really enjoyed it. Like, I think the beginning of it, I was, like, a little bored because it was, like, slower than I was expecting it to be. But... and not even like the true beginning. Like the beginning opening shot was so cool. But then like directly after, I think I was expecting to have like more of that. And then there like wasn't anymore. So it took me like a little bit to adjust just because I was like, I had no idea what I was going into. But overall, like the movie is beautiful. It's really well written in my opinion. Like I really, really enjoyed that. And yeah, like I very much like this movie. I would totally watch it again. Like, I very much want to watch it again.
Literally so fucking good. Maybe we've talked about it in a podcast we released already. I can't remember. Definitely talked about it in real life that we're just obsessed with stories. Like, if the movie has a good story, it's a good movie. Like, period. Mm-hmm. Everything else could be shitty, but if it's a good story, it's a good movie. I totally feel that. And I totally feel like this was just such an amazing story. Like it was, I was completely like unfamiliar just with like a lot of the presented character dynamics. Like the fact that she's, you know, like the drug dealer for like these construction workers, but it's a professional relationship. Like she's a part of the community in a way. And I've never seen something like that. It was like, not like realistic, but it really diverged from just like, convention and cliches. When we think of like someone that hooks up the drugs, you don't think of, you know, Tessa Thompson. She's like, you know, making good on her word, and she brings them coffee and food and stuff, and like she's a really honest person.
They were all so trusting of each other too, which was like really interesting. Like dynamically, like everywhere she personally went in the movie, like every person that she had like an interaction with that she like used to work with, except for that one guy outside of her job interview, but everyone else, like she would like, they all had their kids with them. She would bring her sister's kid, and like they were just like, yeah, can you watch it for a second? Like, and they were like, yeah, I love this kid. And I was like, that's so odd. It was almost like she was like a Robin Hood drug dealer.
Yeah, she kind of was, because it was like the medications. It wasn't like meth or something like.
Yeah, and then like it's not like she was. I think I mentioned that this movie is like empathetic. Like it felt really empathetic, and the reason for that is that because so much of the story, the people that end up needing the drugs and that are paying for the drugs are people that are like, yeah, like I'm addicted to Oxy, but they're addicted to Oxy not because it's something that like they had at a party once and now they can't get off of it. Like it was like, oh, I was injured at my job and I'm in so much pain, and now I need to like keep taking Oxy because I don't have the money to get this fixed, and I just need to go to work and be able to like make money just to live off of right now. And so I thought that dynamic of like the movie was really interesting to see, and I really enjoyed how everyone kind of had this symbiotic relationship with each other, and it made everything feel just a lot more real and personal. It wasn't just the basic like, oh, they're drug dealers, bad, or oh, they're drug dealers, but they're evil, but they have their reasons. It was like, yeah, she's a drug dealer, but like she's got no choice. Like
Exactly.
they don't have a choice. It wasn't like a like not that I don't like Breaking Bad, but a lot of times people will say like, oh, I like Breaking Bad because it's like they show the other side of like the guys that deal drugs and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's true. At the time, I didn't really see a lot of those stories, but like he was like, oh, I'm sick and I can make a lot of money off of this to like pay for my family and like whatever. But like she had to do it so that she could live day to day, like kind of a thing. Like it's a little bit different, and so I think that it was a lot more intimate and personal, and the stakes were a lot higher. So it was really easy to get invested into their situation and stuff.
Yeah, the themes were definitely different. Like the motivation of Walter White is not her motivation.
Yeah.
And like the community built in Breaking Bad, which I haven't seen all the way through, but just from, discussions and stuff, is different from this film where, like you were saying, like their symbiotic relationship and stuff like that. It's built on something you wouldn't expect. It's built on like that reliance on each other through that connection of like money and like drug exchange and that kind of stuff. And so that's something that like well, I don't want to say it like directly happens in real life, but real life is messy like that. And I think like a lot of people can, or I personally was like, definitely the way that you like form connections with people isn't always like a clean, fun way. Like you're having a barbecue with somebody, it usually is through,
like I didn't just meet them at a party. Like
I know. Yeah. That kind of stuff is Hollywood to me. I feel like you kind of like fall into people's lives in real life. And so in that way, it was really like, it was like tender, and I enjoyed that. It was really authentic in that way.
They did a really good job, I think, like just in the way that they composed shots to make sure that it felt that way. I know we talked in like Happiest Season how it didn't feel like we were supposed to be like close to the characters because of how the movie was shot, and everything was like wide shots and stuff like that. But this one, I would say, is like the antithesis to how Happiest Season was shot, because like they had really good compositions of having two characters in the same frame and like maybe not physically close to each other, but it was either like the way that they were separated or how they were leaning, like everything about it made you know that you were supposed to be present in the moment. And so I thought they did a really good job with that, and they were like absolutely beautiful. Like the scene, there's a scene when this is actually probably my favorite scene of the entire movie, is when the sisters are in their kitchen and they both are like, they're not even drinking coffee. I'm pretty sure that they're drinking whiskey in the morning, because it was like right after Tessa Thompson's character's like rampage where she tried to go and find the trailer that got stolen from her sister with like all of their stuff, but then she couldn't like find everything, and then all of that like
the money
drama. And so she's like pissed off and she's like, dang, long night, like she's drinking. Her sister's just like, I'm pregnant, this sucks. Like I don't even know what we're gonna do from here. Like we had everything planned out and it's just going to crap. And then they sit there on the kitchen floor and they drink at like 9 o'clock in the morning, probably. Like it's daylight, like sun is just coming out, and they're sitting on the floor. The sun's coming in through the window, like right above their heads, and so they're kind of in the dark, but you can just see like half of their faces, and they're just sitting there, and it's beautiful. And like the way that they like look at each other, and just how the kitchen kind of like envelops them, and like it's almost like the kitchen, the way that it's like presented in the shot is supposed to be like, this is our safe space right now, and this is it. Like the shot, the way that it's presented makes you feel like you're sitting there in the kitchen with them, and you're like, yep, this is a moment. Like we're all sitting here, sitting on the floor, like just going through it.
I know,
and
that's
like, it's just everything
point.
about it.
Oh yeah, what?
No. Go. Everything about it's just like so warm, and like even though it's like such a tough moment, I don't know, it was great.
I know. I totally like that you brought up the fact that they would, because there was a lot of scenes where they would work with like twilight or like sunrise, and there was a lot of like sunsets and stuff in the distance, and those types of
Hmm.
colors, like the purples and like the light pinks and stuff. And I feel like that really helped to add, because this film is kind of, I wouldn't say a thriller, but there's a lot of suspense. Like, definitely the whole
Mm.
time I had no idea what was going to happen next. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
twists and turns. And I think the fact that they do those sorts of things, like they're in the kitchen, they're not even sitting on the chairs, and the sun is coming up, it adds to that uh, feeling of exhaustion. Like, it
Yeah.
just makes you feel like, you know, the way that they stayed up all night, or the way that they don't sleep, and the
Yeah.
insomnia and that kind of stuff adds to that feeling of just like the constant, you know, they're constantly going, and there's no end in sight. I think that really helped
Yeah.
to build that, to build onto
Because
that.
I think a lot of times when you see like movies and TV shows where they're like up really late at night, they like never really address it.
Yeah.
Like they just like no one talks about it. Like I'm pretty sure there's only a few off the top of my head that I can think of where they actually address the character's exhaustion of just having to live life. And I want to say
Yeah.
like Atomic Blonde does it,
Mhm.
and I want to say like I want to say Jessica Jones in that
Oh yes,
television
love
show.
that
They
one.
address her like exhaustion, but nowhere like it's not a common thing to address how exhausted you are from having to just like survive. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's interesting too that the only ones that I mentioned were movies where it was predominantly like a female story. I don't know if that's just like a thing that we're just like, dang, I'm tired. You know, she's like, girl, same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you feel right there with them. You feel all their exhaustion. And it's not even like a pain. Like there's just a different feeling from feeling pain and feeling exhaustion. And exhaustion just hits different.
Mhm. Exhaustion from
Like,
stuff that isn't even like labor. Like,
yeah, just
yeah.
mental exhaustion. Like
Yeah.
that's
And I like,
so
especially like,
relatable.
yeah, there's a lot of scenes that take place in their house, and a lot of really like important scenes and exhausting scenes, and scenes where, you know, like the plot will get more twisted, like inside of a house, or inside of when she goes in to visit people, the
Mm.
construction workers, like in their bunks and that kind of thing. And especially just in their house, and you mentioned the kitchen scene, I just thought it was kind of a good, I don't want to say juxtaposition, but they never use that kitchen to like cook. Like they like the house, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
house isn't like a space where they feel safe. And so I think that that's
Yeah.
kind of like, it kind of takes those areas in life that you associate with women, and especially in a movie like with women characters.
Hmm.
We were reading something in a class, and they mentioned that like that's something really typical, especially with like women of color, that they're associated with the home, or they're associated with
Yeah.
service, or, you know,
Yeah. Like in
subservient
positions of like
positions.
service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so crazy that this movie totally just like takes those same settings, and like it completely just rewrites their connotations. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get any of those implications. Like, these are not like nurturing like characters. Even
Yeah.
though I think people jump to that conclusion when they see female characters, and especially
Yeah, when
since
they
the sister's pregnant, but you don't
yeah.
get that at all. And I just thought
Mhm.
that was like so fresh, and like, that's, I mean, I don't want to say that's familiar exactly, because I have not done this. This shit is crazy, but like, yeah, I mean, the house isn't always that sort of comfortable place, and like the fact
Mhm.
that the sister was in the trailer and that kind of stuff, and so that kind of stuff was like added to the realism, and like made me feel
Yeah.
a stronger connection to it. It's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And then like what you said about the house too kind of plays into the dynamic of like their family, because Ollie was there basically just so that she could help out her mom. And then like her sister wasn't there. And then once her mom died, like Ollie stayed in the house, but she slept like on the floor in her mother's room. Like
Yeah.
that's so crazy. And so it was very obvious that like she's trying to leave. That was another big like plot point, was that she's trying to get out. She's trying to leave, and she wanted to like go somewhere else. And so like at the end when she gets the phone call outside of the clinic, and she's like, I got the job, like yay. And they're sitting there. Oh my goodness. They're sitting on the steps outside of their like motel after the whole like after everything goes well and they're sitting there and they're smoking their cigarettes and she's like, I'm gonna leave, like I'm finally gonna get out of here. And her sister's like, oh my God, you're gonna leave, like, and then she's like, yes, but like you'll have the house, like
Yeah.
this is like you're gonna be okay. Like, you're so happy and you felt that relief. I thought that it was really well done throughout the whole movie. It's just like, because I think I mentioned like at the beginning of the movie, they they started off with this like tear shot of Tessa Thompson walking, right? And so the background behind her is moving and like everything in the foreground's moving, but she's completely still. And then you see the car pull in and then she starts sprinting towards the camera.
Good.
And they keep the tear shot, right? Like it's still, and she's completely in focus. And I was like, that was amazing, that scene. And I thought that it was going to be that kind of like anxiety, like action type like dynamic throughout the whole film, but then that was it. And so I was like, oh, okay, like weird. But then the way that they kind of keep you anxious about like what's going to happen with everyone throughout the film is it's so high. I would say like the way that they do it, it just keeps building, but it gives you a really nice payoff at the end with like not only just like, yay, they did it, but also like they completely close off the story, which is like a pet peeve of mine when movies don't do that. They'll be like, yay, we completed our job, and like that's it. And then you're like, okay, but like you mentioned all these other problems, like is it gonna help at all? Like I don't, like it doesn't feel complete, but this one felt so complete and so just like put together that it definitely stands out to you watching this film that it's just a little bit better than a regular film.
I honestly, I think it's interesting that you brought that up because I don't know, because there's that scene where you're right. She's like, okay, you'll be okay. We're going to be good, da, da, da. But then, yeah, there's no like scene where she's like handing over the deed and there's no like sort of like, what is it? Like you see them go back, but it's like, you don't really know what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of open-ended because they end with that really long still shot of them at the border, and I think they like piggyback ride together over the end, which I was like, and I guess that probably is why I was like, yes, this is super finished, because that was, oh my gosh, it was beautiful, but it was also like symbolic of like, yes, we did the thing, we're crossing into like a new threshold of our life. And I was like, I love that they did that visually, and like it so parallels the plot and everything that happens in the film. And I was like, oh my goodness, amazing, beautiful, chef's kiss.
Beautiful. Yeah, because it was like basically everything else that happened to them, it was like they couldn't help what would happen next. Like literally every single thing that happened, even the good things, it's like they couldn't help what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like even the good things weren't guaranteed. So it's just like, oh my gosh. Oh my God, this movie's so good.
It's so good.
It's so
I'm a little mad actually because I read a Roger Ebert. I can never say his last name right. Yeah, I read one of his reviews on Little Woods, and he basically was like, yeah, I feel like they should have trusted like the actors more, and that he felt that the characters and the actors were like mouthpieces for the writing with like some of the lines that they said. Whereas like I felt completely the opposite. I was like, some of the lines, like he brought up the lines where she says like, not everything you do is something that can be like helped or something like that. And I was like, I thought that's a great line to say, like in a movie.
He thought it was like a mouthpiece. What does that mean?
He basically thought that like the writing, like they didn't fit the characters, if that makes sense. Oh, and I was like, I can kind of see that.
I can kind of see that.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, wait.
And I was like, the fact that he was like so upset and like pressed about this, I was like, you didn't notice anything else about the movie? He was like, yeah, it was good. I was like, come on. This is a great movie.
I know, that's where it's subjective, because for some people, if it's bad characters, it's a bad movie, but...
Yeah, but I thought the characters were great. Like, I totally, like, I thought they were really good. But when he said that, it made me think of this line, because when she said the line in the movie, I was just like, mic drop. When they're sitting there and they're in the kitchen, again, my favorite scene, when they're sitting in the kitchen, she's on the floor, she takes a sip of her whiskey, and her sister goes, come on, you're pregnant. And she goes, it cost $8,000 just to have the baby. And I was like, Oh my god. The delivery, the writing. Oh, like thank you so much. That was a beautiful line. $8,000 just to have a baby, and then she
Yeah.
explained. She's like, that's not even like to have the food to like raise a kid. That's not even taking into account like having like the property and like a room and a bed for the kid, like driving the kid, getting him to school, like any of that. That's just to have the baby. And I was like, that's a conversation that does not get talked about on screen very often. And then
Mhm.
she says, like, I totally understand like why people are going to Canada. Like, and I was like, this is it. This is great. Like, I thought it was amazing because I was like, that is why. And I feel like so many people, they, when they think of things like, oh, they're going to like a different country to get healthcare legally, and it's like, you aren't thinking about people's actual lives. And I was like, this movie does a really good job of making you like think about people's lives instead of just like everything else. Like, could you
Yeah.
imagine if that were you? Like, no, I could not imagine. And she already has one kid.
I
Like,
know.
the expenses are insane. And I
Yeah.
thought it was really interesting too that like everything she did was in her power. Like, it was her
Mhm.
choice, and she had the option to opt out at any moment.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's really great, like representation of like a good like female dynamic,
Yeah.
especially like, and it was just really good. And I thought another dynamic part of that was really interesting. And I honestly don't know if this is like true or not. It's kind of just my interpretation of the scene. But when she has her card and she's in the clinic, she's like, yeah, I have an appointment. It's at 5:30, and she's not sure if it's gonna work. And she like gives it to the lady, and the lady's like, oh, it's not working. Like, can you read me the numbers? She reads her the numbers, and they do this like kind of long beat, right? The lady just looks at her for a moment, and she goes, it worked. It worked. But oh my goodness, her acting, the girl's acting in that part. Oh my goodness, the way she looks is like, I have never felt like something is more important in my life and it might be taken away from me because of some stupid numbers. And she's literally standing there like, I'm about to cry. Like, she's got tears in her eyes, and the lady just looks at her and goes like, all right, you're good to go. And I'm not quite sure the way that it was filmed with that extra moment, like if the lady was just helping her out or if she actually like had a valid card.
Exactly. And that's just what's so amazing about the acting is because when you read the lines, it's like, oh, here's my card, read the numbers. Okay, here you go. But because of that acting and because of that extra, like the editing and all that stuff, you get that feeling like, did she just
good.
sneak her in? Like, I love that. I love that. Oh my God. That
And then
was,
it makes you wonder too, like how many more patients does this woman have where
yeah.
she's witnessed other women that are like, my life is on the line. There's so many things that are on the line with this abortion, and like, I need to have it. And if this doesn't work, like, I don't know what else to do. And it's like, you can see that in her eyes, and you can see that the woman sees that, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing.
I like this story just especially in light of like Promising Young Woman that we talked about, and then just like other movies, because the fact that we watched Promising Young Woman, we could name several other films where like women are like abused, such and such.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many more. I think there was a one that just premiered at Sundance and like all this stuff. And it's like, there's basically like a whole genre now. You could fill a genre category on Netflix with like films about women's suffering where it's like, it's not even on accident. Like, you know, in the 60s when they would make, you know, women suffer on screen, but it was because of internalized misogyny. Now it's on purpose. Now they're like, oh yeah, we're doing this on purpose. And we know that we're showing women suffer. This one, it was like a struggle, and they struggled. It didn't feel exploitative the way that other films feel like they're exploiting the women. I don't know why. But this one felt like it was more empathetic rather than like voyeuristic. I didn't feel like I was
more empathetic.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't any like because I feel like sometimes they have these things where they like purposefully show you something that happens to a woman and make you feel bad for her. And like as
Yeah.
the audience, you're supposed to feel bad, which is like, I get it. You're trying to like elicit empathy from the audience, but the way that you're doing doesn't portray the woman like in any other light except for suffering. Whereas these characters, like, yes, they were struggling, and yes, they had their like things that they had to go through, and it was really hard to like watch them have to go through this, but it was something that you could pick out and relate to on some type of level. And it wasn't that they were just like struggling to make you feel something.
Yeah.
Like at all.
I almost would say that like I do feel empathy as a result of the movie, but I don't think that was the intention. Like I think the intention was just to show things that go down, because they're very strong. Like they were strong characters, and they never like ask for help. I mean, they were asking for help as sisters, which is amazing. And I love, you know, a sisterly and on-screen sisterly like relationship, which is rare.
Yeah.
And especially because this one was like really like fiery. It wasn't like cute sisters. It was like they had struggles, but they were still there for each other. And yeah, that was really rich and, you know, refreshing. But
and like instead of it being something where like the audience is supposed to feel empathetic because of something that happened on screen, it was more like we were experiencing and empathizing with the characters, because the characters, it was like a picture of humanity. The characters were empathizing with each other. And that's the difference between like the films. Like a lot of times the movies where the women are suffering, they don't experience any empathy from anybody at all in their movies or like in their characters. Whereas with these movies, like you don't feel like you have to feel for these characters. You're feeling them feel for each other. And it's just like a huge difference.
Poetry. That's so
like that.
Fucking true.
I guess that's probably why I was so disappointed with like these movies that are like coming out that are like, it's a revenge film where we're going to talk about the things that women go through and women's struggles, and like, yeah, we need to talk about these, but we also need to portray like how to help, because we keep saying like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And I feel like at some point we just have all of these films where we're just kind of exhausted and tired of the fact that women are suffering everywhere, and you're going to show me the realism of it all by being like, oh yeah, it's not a happy ending. Like that sucks. But like, it doesn't always have to be like that. Like even if there's no physical justice, there should be some type of justice between the women in the film. Like we need to be there for each other. Like, Lord, if no one else is, who's going to do it? Like, my goodness. And so I think that it's just like, I'm kind of tired of seeing movies where it's just like, it's a revenge film where the woman fights through all of these things by herself and has no help at all. It doesn't have anyone to go to. And it's like, I understand that that's a thing, but like, I'm so tired of that narrative. Like, I don't want, like, I feel like at some point, if you keep putting that narrative out there, then we're going to keep embodying that narrative. Whereas we need to start embodying narratives of people that aren't afraid to ask for help, that are willing to help each other and like be empathetic towards one another. So I don't know. I really like this movie. And
it's almost like propaganda, because like literally people need people. It's like, that's just a fact of life. But then like there's a weird sort of like, what is it? The strong female character thing where they're like, oh, like she's so strong, she doesn't need anybody. And I feel like
guess what?
That's become
she's
so
exhausted.
That's why she's tired.
She's sitting on the floor drinking whiskey at 9 a.m.
Because
she's tired.
I know, and I feel like that's affected a lot of people, because like now girls are like, oh, if I need help, like I'm weak, like I shouldn't. And you know what? That's actually something that's not unfamiliar. Like I definitely think a lot of people would say that they agree with that. I don't agree with that, and I feel like it's like propaganda. Like it's weird because it's like it's only in like this new century, like maybe some like before the 21st century, but like recent films that are so big on that. Like, oh, you don't need help. But even in like James Bond films, it's like he has a whole team, you know, like he got help, but like
it's Avengers.
Like, yeah, I know, like Avengers.
The Bat Family. Like, come on.
Yeah, but with like girls, it's like, you know, Hunger Games. It's like, nope, she's on her own. Like she got to do it herself. Like all that kind of like those kinds of narratives, I feel like, are so like damaging for people because they do like, you know, mess with like girls' heads. They're so impressionable when they're young.
Yeah, like especially you're like, oh, I want to be like her, and then
Mm-hmm.
you look at it, and your way of being her is being strong and independent and by yourself.
Yeah,
and
it's just
like,
impossible.
That's
like,
not how I want to be. I'm sorry, I tried that route.
Yeah,
I tried being alone. It freaking sucks.
I know. It's just not realistic.
There was something about this film too, actually, where it was like, yes, Tessa Thompson's character was strong, but there's a thing she always repeated to her sister. She said, like, you're brave. Every time her sister had like a hard time, she was like, oh my gosh, I have to go into that house alone. I have to go into the abortion clinic. I don't know what I'm going to do. She would look at her and she would say, you're brave and you can do this. And I really like that she said you're brave instead of you're strong, because I was like, don't tell me I'm strong. Like, I don't want to be strong. That's it. Like, the whole reason is I don't want to be strong, but I can be brave. If I can be brave for like 5 seconds, I can get this done. I don't know if I can be strong for that 5 seconds. And I'm glad that she said that, like, narratively, because like the strong woman trope is such a thing. And so instead of having a strong woman, you had a brave woman, which I think again feeds into that feeling of the fact that the characters had empathy for each other instead of us trying to have empathy for a movie that's trying to elicit it from us, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it was really well done. And I think that like even just little things like that in the script like really helped pull it all together.
Mm-hmm. Fucking I don't know how many times we've already like not done FMF, but like, should we just not do FMF again and like instead be like, who would be a better boyfriend? Or like,
what boyfriend from a movie would you think, like from a different movie? Like he has to be a character. Like who would you rather? What
she date?
Yeah. What man from any other movie that is a character would you have enjoyed to see in this movie?
Yeah, who would have treated her right? Let's see.
Who would have treated her right? Who would have been dependable? Dang. This might even be a harder question.
Okay, so my thought is
to
let
think
me
of
get
a
the
dependable
name
man
from fucking, oh my god, my phone's frozen. Why? From fucking Saving Face, from the movie Saving Face by Alice Wu. The mom has not an affair, but like the mom's kind of older, but she gets like a 30-year-old boyfriend or something like that. And he's so cute and he treats her right and he loves her and he's so cute. I'm pretty sure his name is Jay. I think. I don't know. I just looked it up. That might be right. I don't remember. But basically the mom's boyfriend. I'm like, he was so cute and he wasn't bothered by the fact that she had a daughter and all this shit. So he would treat her right. And we recommended Saving Face in the half of it one. So
I was gonna say the guy from the half of it, like if he was just like like as an adult, he would be perfect.
Dude, Alice was so good at writing men. Like, can she just write all men?
Goodness. Can she write the men in real life? That I wouldn't feel so horrible about being romantically attracted to them.
Dude, that's so funny. That's valid. Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. They would be great. They would be great.
They'd be so cute.
Some good men right there.
Okay, Bechdel test. Definitely
totally passes.
Yeah, absolutely. We love sisters on screen.
Also, like, they were adopted sisters, but it didn't, like, they didn't really, like, they casually mentioned that she's adopted, but they don't, like, make it, like, a huge, like, you are adopted, like, kind of a thing. And it's, like, they're family. They're family. And they act like it, and they feel like it's the bone.
Yeah, I love that shit, too. I love when they just do that shit, and they don't justify it. Like, it just is. It is what it is.
That's great.
It's the best.
I also love both the actresses for the sisters, so like I love both. Tessa Thompson's great, and the other girl, I literally can't remember her name. I feel horrible, but she's in like Mamma Mia, and she's like gorgeous. Like, she's got such a cool, like, face. I don't know what it is, but she's so pretty.
Her name is...
Wasn't she Cinderella, too?
Lily
James. She was also
James.
Cinderella. Yeah, she was Cinderella.
Oh, she was in
the
Baby
live
Driver.
action.
That's how I know her.
Oh, yeah, she was in Baby Driver.
Yeah.
She's got such a cool little, like, vibe. I don't know what it is.
It's unique.
But, like, anytime I see her, I'm just like, yeah, I like you.
Yeah, she has a unique look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back to the Bechdel test, sorry.
Honestly, I've already like said so many good things. It's like, what is there even like? Just I just thought they were like
the majority
it was such respectable dialogue, and like I don't even know what to say. It was like effortless. It wasn't even like they put it in there so that they could hit that checkbox or whatever. Like
it was really good.
Perfect.
And like the majority of the movie is them talking to each other about like everything. Like nothing's off the table. They talk about their kid, they talk about like their jobs, they talk about their lives, they talk about each other, and like it's just really beautiful. And they talk about each other succeeding, which is really great.
Each other's what?
Succeeding. They talk about each other like doing well. And I think that that's also really good because that doesn't happen very often. Yeah. Yeah. It was so good. So good.
Yeah, it was just so good. I don't even know, like
this movie.
This movie's just so good.
I'm just gonna say it again. It is so good.
So, since it's so good, I am going to rate this movie a 9 out of 10. Literally, I think it's that good. It's so pretty. It's so like captivating. It's rewatchable. I fucking love it. I fucking love this movie. Yeah. So
I agree. I'm also gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It was great.
Oh my god. Yes.
So good. I'm so glad I watched it.
Yeah.
So glad I watched it. Totally would watch it again. I'm gonna like recommend it to people, but I feel like I would also be like if someone is one of those people that's like I only like movies that are like action, like I'm probably not gonna recommend it to them just because I feel like they wouldn't appreciate it. Like I'm only gonna recommend it to people that I know are gonna like it. Or be like, if you're looking for a movie that like you want to appreciate, watch this one.
I just think it has everything. I'm so into this type of movie where it's like suspenseful, but it's really like down to earth. I love the dialogue. I love the story. Everything flowed really well. It was just perfect. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was so
it was really great.
Impressed. I've never seen a movie like this, which made recommendations like super hard.
Yeah,
but I know you have some.
Yeah, and I only really have 2. I would say like give Winter's Bone a try if you like this type of movie because it's very similar. Not stylistically, but story-wise, it's similar. I would say it's probably not as empathetic, but it is a little bit more like thriller and suspense if that's something that you're looking for. And the other movie that this one made me think of was a movie called Fast Color, which is it's not as similar, I would say, as like the thriller action thing. It's technically a fantasy because it's kind of like a weird, awkward, like superhero subversion of like it's like indie movies. It's like an indie superhero film
love it.
But it's centered around this family and their powers. And basically, like the main character has to come back to her family, and they have to, protect each other and be together. And it's a very like mother, daughter, and granddaughter centered film. But I think that the dynamics of like family and empathy are very much there in Fast Color, like they are in this film. So I would recommend that one as well.
Yeah.
So I guess we're done. We're gonna say, I guess it's nighttime for us, so we're gonna say good night. But have a good rest of your day, and thank you so much for consuming this content, watching it, listening to it. Feel free to talk to us on Instagram or in the comments on YouTube. We have an email. You can email us as well. We love to hear if you guys have any movie recommendations or if you guys could find a different boyfriend for persist in this movie.
For Lily James.
we'd love to hear it. We love interacting with you guys. And yeah, we kind of want to form like a little community. So always down for that. Thank you guys so much again. We love you. Have fun. Enjoy wherever, whenever you are. Yeah. Thanks for watching, for listening. Bye.
Bye.